So now moving to item 7, Capital Endowment Fund applications. Sam, you're presenting this one as well. Did you have any comment that you wanted to make by way of introduction?
Yeah, sure. Just to kind of add a bit of flavour and context to the report that you would have read. As a reminder, Council made an amendment to the process for Capital Endowment Fund as part of the wider funding review work, which was decided upon on the 13th of December 2018. And it set up a process by which community organisations could have greater access to the fund. So it's not a fund that's open to be applied to. It's not on our website. People have to be kind of identified based on plans, etc., and that can be done by staff or by councillors, and then put through to see if it meets the criteria. So the groups we have here are those that have seemed to have met the criteria for this particular round. So we've got 2 rounds of Capital Endowment Fund per year. So it's good to know that what we've recommended by the staff still leaves an allocation there for round 2, which will come to councillors in February 2020. So we've got staff here to answer questions about the specific applications in front of you, and of course I can answer questions on the process by which these applications come to you.
Thank you. So are there any questions for staff? Yanni.
I know a number of the applications asked for more than what you've given, except for the South Brighton Surf Lifesaving Club, which you've recommended. Oh, sorry, you've recommended the amount requested a lot, but for Rafiti, you've recommended less. So I was just wondering if you could just talk through the ones that have got the full amount that they requested and why Rafiti's not getting as much as they've requested. But also, just in terms of Surf Lifesaving Club, have we given other funding to that, or is this the only funding that we've given?
So I can talk broadly to our process. When we met as a group of staff, as per the process you put in line for us, we had a really good, collaborative, robust discussion about the applications, and those that were ready to go and did all their legwork, and we really believed they would be successful. We sought to fund fully to achieve that success. There are some applications in the pipelines that you don't see here that were deferred to the next round because it was seen that some more prep work needed to be done before the application was fully ready. Due to the scale of these pieces of work, that feels really appropriate to do. So Jackie may be able to give context to those 2 specific questions, which was some rationale around the amount selected for Eastern Sport and Rec, and then how much other funding we've given to South Brighton Surf Life Saving Club. Jackie is a Sport and Rec advisor for Coastal Burwood and works closely with these organisations.
So in reference to the first question, the panel, staff panel decided to put, for the recommendation for Eastern Community Sport and Recreation, to put the majority of the funds towards the actual construction costs. So the items that have been identified were those professional fees and the lighting and canopy fencing and surfacing costs, not to put funding towards some of those operational costs in that first year of operation. So that was the wages and other aspects that have been identified. And we felt that perhaps some of those things could be funded through other more appropriate streams of funding. The second question around whether South Brighton Surf Lifesaving Club had received funding is no, they haven't received any other funding for this project from Council.
Final question I had was in regards to their artwork. It has a number of conditions on it. I'm just wondering why this is coming to us now when there's so much outstanding information still to get, particularly things like a 10-year maintenance plan, where it says that it will not result in unbudgeted operational capital expenditure for council, but given, like, for example, we can't afford to maintain our community facilities at the moment, it's hard to understand how we can afford to maintain a new artwork for 10 years. So I'm just trying to kind of understand when we'll get that information around the maintenance costs and what budget impact, what won't be done if we agree to it.
Yeah.
or whether we're getting a separate report on that.
So what the recommended resolutions are for that is to allow staff to assess the maintenance plan and ensure that it doesn't impact on council costs. So one of the funding criteria that councillors have set for the Capital Endowment Fund is that things that it funds won't have a operational impact on council. So therefore, the applicant, working with its partners and sponsors, needs to figure out how to maintain this artwork without it costing the council before we grant them the money.
Right. So just to be clear, we're not going to pick up the cost of funding this artwork, and we're not going to have it depreciate on our balance sheet.
Correct. We won't own the artwork.
Who's going to maintain it?
The work's being done through Scape, and they will be developing that plan and with their various partners, and that's part of the requirement of them accessing this Capital Endowment Fund. So if they can't figure out a way to do that, then the funds won't be released, and I guess the artwork may or may not go ahead. They're seeking obviously financial input from a range of partners, and we'll just be one.
And they've got $900,000 of sponsorship. Mm-hmm. Do you know how much? I mean, it's just we don't really get much of a budget.
Sure.
But we're told that the project is 1.2 plus GST, and they've still got $900,000 to raise. Is any of that money coming out of other council funding sources, like our Public Arts Fund?
So the Public Arts Fund does not have budget in it at the moment, and that's why it's come to the Capital Endowment Fund. Traditionally, with the PAG was being funded out of long-term plan and annual plan money, then that would have gone there, but that they currently don't receive revenue, so that's why it's come to Capital Endowment. The nature of the criteria of Capital Endowment Fund is that they can't come back to council for any other funding, be it operational or grant funding for this project, and we'll only release the funding once they've achieved all the other income they need through sponsorship, etc., for this to be a viable project. And if they do not achieve that, and therefore the work doesn't go ahead, then that fund, the money tagged for this artwork, will return to the Capital Endowment Fund for further allocation. And we've in fact set a date, sort of a timeline for them to work to for that, so that it's not just this forever 100k that is sitting there waiting to be allocated. There's a deadline there for Scape to work to.
Thank you. Further questions? Dion.
Just a very quick one on that one. They've requested 100,000 plus GST, and ours is just 100,000 including GST.
So our when we grant money to organisations, it does not attract GST because of the nature of it being a grant rather than a commercial transaction. So we're giving them 100k.
So it's just 100k flat.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, I'm happy to move this. Do I have a seconder? Tim Scandrus. So moved and seconded. Is there any debate? Pauline.
Can I just expand on the Totara artwork? We were fortunate at our community board, last week, the week before, it's a bit of a blur, to have a little bit of a sneak preview of it, and it's actually going to go up just to the east side of Cranford Street, where the new arterial extension comes across the road there, and it's just going to be quite a stunning piece. Deborah from Scape actually told us that the public art in Christchurch that Scape have brought here is attracting a lot of visitors and a lot of attention from global media. Media like the New York Times, the World Sculpture Mag and The Guardian have all reported on the public art in Christchurch. And I think that's really encouraging because it actually does attract visitors and produce economic benefit. And along with this artwork going in, it's going to be celebrated by the planting of 2,020 Totara seedlings in the Canterbury region. So that's incredible. So I think all power to these people who are giving us this public artwork. We're contributing 100,000. That's for the initial fabrication. This artwork's by Phil Price. And I think that for us to contribute this is really really indicative of our support for what art is doing for Christchurch. So, yeah, excellent.
Thank you, Glenn, and then Yanni. Glenn.
Yes, I support these applications. Two, obviously, are within the coastal Burwood area. With Rāwhiti, that's and Eastern Sport and Rec, that's been a marvellous transformation of an area and incredible added value for the community. I'm pleased to see that although it's not the full amount, it will actually cover, as we've heard before from Jackie, the physical work, lighting, canopy, fencing and services, and the professional fees in the 172. With the surf club, obviously fully support that, but it's always sat uneasily with me how surf clubs aren't more fully funded directly from government around New Zealand in the way that, say, ambulance services aren't in some ways. Seems a bit odd when you've got resources and life-saving, literally saving positions. But yeah, support all these applications today.
Thank you. Yanni.
I'm really, really glad to hear that the artwork is not going to come back for us for maintenance, and that this is the grant. This is not ratepayer funding. This is the Capital Endowment Fund, which came from an electricity gas deal that was done some time ago. And so I think this is an appropriate use of this money. But the good news is that we're not going to incur the maintenance, which is, I think, one of the real concerns is that we've got our own maintenance issues to take care of as a city, and we simply cannot keep incurring additional cost at the same time that we can't afford to keep our community facilities maintained, or our parks or our roads maintained, or our water network maintained. So I think this is really a good application in terms of this is not ratepayers' money going in, it's supporting an artwork that we're not going to have to spend a lot of money maintaining going forward. So I welcome that, and perhaps this can be a model for other artworks in the future when we get these big, massive, expensive artworks coming into our city, that we give a small contribution to enable it to access external funding, but that someone else looks after it, particularly the cost of maintaining it. So I welcome seeing what it looks like, and I think the other things that we've got in terms of the community facilities. Again, this was the kind of idea behind the Community Endowment Fund, and sadly over time, the last 2 decades, the money has gone more into economic development rather than into community projects. I think now we're starting to see a change in that balance, in line with what the original consultation showed, is that the people, when they were consulted at the time, wanted this money going into community projects, and I think these are worthy ones.
Thank you. Anne.
I just want to reinforce what Pauline said about this beautiful installation, and to thank and acknowledge the work that Scape have done for the city and bringing it to international attention for the wonderful public art that we have in the city. And so often we spend time thinking about the physical structures of our city, the roads, the footpaths. Art brings more than an economic benefit to a city. It strengthens our soul. It brings people together. It causes them to pause and to reflect on deeper things, and it enriches our lives. So I think by adopting and reinforcing and passing this today, this funding, I think that we are acknowledging the value that public art brings to us, and also the value of the work that Scape has done for the city. So totally in support of this.
Thank you. Tim.
Thank you. Just kind of getting back to community things with regards to the local communities. It's really good to see that some of the community groups are really getting out there, and it is to collect funding from other organisations rather than council. It's incredibly hard out there to get any kind of funding, whatever you're doing, and I think all credit goes to those that do it. And I was just looking through these before, and Hunsbury's got a 2-for-1. So for every $1 the council's put in, they've managed to raise $2. So it is incredibly hard to do that for all groups. So congratulations to them, and again, thanks to the staff for the work you do.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you.